boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Sorry, this part been like a minute. It has so much other stuff carrying on. I had to make sure that I take care of them. But I finally finished the 13 issue 2-act story run of The Flash, the fastest man alive, written by Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo and Ken Lashley. Story arcs known as Lightning in a Bottle and Full Throttle. So, yeah, man. I wanted to make sure I covered. It's been a minute since I did like a Flash story, so I wanted to make sure I put one on the list. And this one piqued my interest because I like the comics era of like the, like 80s getting into the early 2000s, and this came out in 2006 into 2007. So yeah, man, it was it was still like a fun read, man. So this is focused on Bart Allen, who previously went by Impulse, who is from the future that got trapped into the present, is the grandson of Iris West and Barry Allen. Just to give you a good read on where we at right now, Bart, previously Impulse, has always been depicted as a young kid, part of the Teen Titans. But then, through a previous series of events leading to the seemingly death of the previous Flashes, except for Jay Garrick, and not including Max Mercury, who also is seemingly dead through some a different crisis event that became prior. I think it was the crisis, that the first major crisis that took us out of the it's definitely before New 52. Like, what was the era it was? It's like, what, Golden Age, Silver Age, one of those. So before we continue, please do me a huge favor and like the video, leave a comment below, let me know what is your favorite Flash story. And I missed that this particular DC logo. This is the logo I grew up with, not the comic flip thing or the Rebirth logo. This was my DC logo. That, the planetary ring around the DC letters. I don't know why. I just thought it's like, yeah, that's the logo you should go with. Anywho, right now in Keystone / Central City, primarily the main Flash is Jay Garrick, picking up the slack since most of the other speedsters are dead by this point. And Bart is wishy-washy on taking on the mantle, because it's kind of like I'm not sure what's the proper word would be, having not identity crisis, no pun intended, but more so doesn't feel like he can fulfill those shoes of Wally, and this is before the Black Wally was fulfill the shoes of Wally West and Barry Allen, who has spent aside from Jay Garrick, has spent a significant time being the flashes, and it's kind of like not this feeling is kind of not that dissimilar to how Wally feels, or at least felt, early in his career trying to fulfill the shoes of Barry. But eventually he became, like came into his own, which is something that Bart is now going to have to go on that particular arc. Right now, um, uh, uh, Bart is a little older now, and he is like roommates with this kind of like a douche of a dude. I forgot his freaking name. So you know, blow this out. No, like I make sure, like in case I've skipped these names, I already have panels ready. So I know. Uh, uh, it'll come eventually, but uh, the Keystone Motors, uh, observing, this tech until like an accident, uh, occurred. Obviously, typical in these superhero things. Uh, yeah, he's just uh, going through his own inner flashbacks about him growing up in like the far future, but then the whole crisis event, losing his previous mentors. And we get to meet his love interest Valerie here, who works at Star Labs. Of course, he keeps this like identity pretty much like secret from everybody except for, of course, she'll eventually get in the know, but so far, only Jay Garrick and his wife are pretty much in the know, aside from maybe the Teen Titans. Griffin, that was the roommate's name. An accident occurred at the this warehouse, which gave Griffin uh, some superpowers, and of course it'll have like a nasty little side effect that he didn't bother to go get, checked out, further studied at all. But as Bart is just trying to live a normal life because he doesn't feel like he's up to it, and being like the full-fledged Flash and not just Kid Flash or Impulse anymore, because it's like, yeah, he pretty much, you know typically in these kind of like mantles, if something happens with the previous wielder of the name, either they retire or they die or they lose the powers, the sidekick normally wants, through the series of training that they usually do with the mentor, they will eventually have to step up and put that training into use and that knowledge into use. But Bart doesn't either feel like he's ready, nor he feels like he just, now that, like, I think it wasn't like a normal growth spurt. It's just like, something influenced his, like, you know, uh, increased in aging by a couple of years. I forgot what it was, but he is in like his early 20s right now. mentally he still feels like a in his mid-teens. Uh, but he essentially had to grow up fast. But he just doesn't feel like he's ready to be full-fledged Flash. But since his accident, he had to like, okay, fate just kind of forces his hand. So now that he's primarily now the wielder of the Speed Force, since the previous wielders are not here, he has to, control this, newfound power. Because previously he kind of piggybacking off of Barry, then Wally. Now it's solely him. So he's pretty much saving everybody, including Griffin. So you see a little bit more of his previous history. Because if you read any older DC comics like Teen Titans or Young Justice or whatever, and you see a character named Impulse and he acting kind of childish and stuff like that, this is who we're talking about now. This is a series of flashbacks. He, in the far future, he had to be pretty much like put in like a virtual reality stasis because of some kind of medical condition or something like that. The speed was my inheritance from my grandfather Barry and my father Don. It was in my blood in every cell. First few years were blurred, literally. At the age of 1, I looked 3. At 2, I looked 10. The Earth-gone doctors told my mom and dad that I'll be an old man by my 3rd birthday. They couldn't stop my metabolism, but they put me in a virtual reality chamber programmed to make me believe I was aging normally. I grew up in a mirage, but I guess it kept me sane. After my parents were killed, Grandma Iris brought me back to this time. Her nephew Wally, the 3rd Flash, used the Speed Force to shock my system. The aging thing slowed to normal, but I still needed a mentor, someone to guide and train me. Max Mercury, the speedster guru, had been a hero even longer than Jay, like 150 years longer. So yeah, here's a brief little summary of why his ages, always seem kind of like back and forth between teen and early adult. And he has moments of kind of immaturity, but in this particular story, he has a bit of maturity. Every once in a while, we do get some fun wisecracks from him. More so in the 2nd arc, which I gotta say, I kind of personally like better than this 1st arc. I mean, the 1st arc actually not that bad. Like a good, adventure. We not have to deal with too much of the origin story. We're just kind of flung into the middle of his own little adventure. But I personally got slightly more out of the 2nd arc or the 2nd story than the 1st one. So we see him like, when he's flung into the past, being mentored by Wally West, he's pretty much like saving helping saving the world and everything like that. He ended up getting injured by Deathstroke at one point. So it's we get a little bit of his history and where he is right now. Of course, Jay is trying to encourage Bart that he has to like step up, but he's just like not there yet. And of course, it kind of reminds me of Batman Brave and the Bold episode where uh, Barry seemingly died, and it wasn't Bart, but it was the young Wally, who's pretty much like biting the head off of Jay Garrick, because he kind of blames him in a way for like losing, but it's kind of like he's angry more so at himself that he probably couldn't do more, so he kind of lashes out. It's not exactly that here, but it just kind of reminded me of it. Because just like, I don't know, as I was reading through this panel, it just popped, that episode kind of just popped in my brain. You've been connected to the Speed Force for over a year, and you lied to everyone about it. Yeah, because he pretty much like keeping everybody in the dark about it, because he just doesn't feel like he's ready. He kind of just preferred to just want to live like a normal life, because he felt like, okay, we still technically got a Flash, we got Jay Garrick, they don't need me, but he been at the game long enough where he doesn't feel well, at least he just want to live. He's feel more obligated to live a semi-retired life. He can pop in every once in a while if they need extra set of hands in terms of superheroing, but and he's still pretty dang fast. But since Bart now has primarily the ownership of the Speed Force, and he's young enough and skilled enough, he should be the primary one doing the bulk of the work and being Keystone and Central City's Flash. Uh, uh, but yeah, he doesn't want to learn to control it. He just kind of he wants like Star Labs to kind of just remove it. And that's why he goes back and forth from Star Labs and trying to figure out what can he do to just get rid of it, because he doesn't want the responsibility. It's kind of like the whole hero's journey, like that part of like denying the call kind of thing. But Griffin now with these green ethereal abilities or something, he's trying to become like because he kind of idolizes superheroes, but he figures like, oh, I can do a better job. But he also has no qualms of taking a life from bad guys, which obviously ain't gonna sit right with Jay or Bart. But there's a bad drawback now. Every time he uses his powers, he is aging little by little. So it's kind of like the mirror effect of Bart. Is a kind of good. Is pretty much a good mirror between his powers, because when he was young, his metabolism causing him to age uh uh not crazy rapidly, but little by little. So this is what's going on with Griffin now. So taking on the Flash ring, putting on the suit, he decides to go and help, because Griffin's little by little is getting out of control, and he's not listening to anybody. And he thinks like his best friend, supposedly best friend or roommate, is jealous of him. You know, there was an accident went on in Star Labs, so and since people he cares about, a couple of scientists that he really cares about, one of them including Val. He, like I said, fate calls him to come save the day. He couldn't just stand by, so he goes into Flash mode, wearing the classic Flash outfit. zooms in, no pun intended, to rescue everybody before everything goes up in flames. And of course, Griffin is testing out his strength. He's getting a lot stronger. And when he keeps saving the day, he essentially getting rewarded. And he's not just doing it for the sake of others. He's doing it for like personal gain. Which obviously that is not sitting well. He's getting like new. He's getting rewarded by the city with like new rides and free access to crap. So he doesn't understand what it means to be a hero. 1 second here. All right, sorry about that. Where was I? Yeah, so yeah, he's doing all this for like personal gain, despite like Barry's. I keep calling because the B, Barry, Bart, you know, despite Bart's concern, Griffin's not trying to listen. Meanwhile, Val, uh, she, in a way has a connection to the Flashes because her father used to be a villain that first tangled with uh, Jay, and then eventually with Barry, and then Wally. So he pretty much, and he seemingly died, but his name was Mota. Uh, he went by Atom Smasher. Yeah, it's like a kind of powers like of atomic energy, but ended up causing his own self destruction. Typically how he goes with certain villains. Uh, so she pretty much kind of like kept that kind of stuff to herself because she doesn't want any kind of relations with him. She doesn't because he to her point of view he's dead, but she does not want that to be associated with his name whatsoever. It's she it's shameful. So 1 second. Got 5 files with different slides. I already know which next coming I really want to review, but that's probably not going to take crazy long. But when I get to it, I will. But because I'm gonna be crazy busy for the next month with a new job. But I'll try to make sure I get it, get to it soon. And it's still be DC related. Because I feel like I haven't been putting out much DC in a while. So yeah, Val eventually know, Bart is the new Flash. So she eventually brings it up in the at least a slight bit in the second arc, but she kind of feels a little, because if you think about it, like I mentioned before, Bart mentally he's still like in his like mid-teens, even though outwardly and maybe even behaviorally he is got the appearance of a young 20-something, but technically, biology wise, he is like in his mid-teens. She is feeling some type of way. Well, she have to address it because I'm pretty sure readers are probably going to have to kind of address it back then. It's like she's like a 20-something woman in like a relation with a mid-teen boy, even though outwardly he's in his 20s. But don't think about it too hard. It's kind of like the whole Leia Luke kiss. It's like, don't think about it. Let's just let it pass. But I just kind of feel like I have to at least address it in some capacity because it is kind of like, if you peel back the layers, it is kind of wild. But anyway, since Jay Garrick is primarily, doing the Flash duties, while, Bart, for the most part, has been sitting on his hands, Griffin felt a little jealous because Jay has been, like, stealing his spotlight. But what's worse, he says he's not, like, gaining kind of monetary gain out of it. He's just like, oh wow, people like him more. On top of that, he has to like deal with the fact that to him, he is aging, little by little. He eventually is trying to figure out how to stop it somehow. But that is going to be on the back burner because now he is just primarily focused on trying to save his like stardom. And his costume is pretty much like a blue Timu Moon Knight look. Doesn't it kind of look like a blue Moon Knight without the coolness factor of it? Like, we don't need to think too hard about Griffin because he's one of those one and done villains, and not even like anything interesting. In my personal take, I kind of wish that we could have used some other known Flash villain. This guy is just created for this story, and he really is not leaving any impact at all. If I offer any kind of criticism of this comic run, Griffin is such a weak link. This is my personal take. And of course, I encourage you guys to read The Fastest Man Alive. uh, written by Danny Bilson, but honestly, I don't know how many people will look at Griffin and is like, man, we should have gotten more out of this guy. Maybe if I look it up, if he's been in anything after this, because they keep recycling certain characters in other modern media or modern comics. We'll see if Griffin is used anytime after this situation. Hmm. Nope. And while I'm here, his powers is pretty much enhanced vision, superhuman strength, energy manipulation, super leaping, and disintegration. And that's how he normally kills his enemies. That's to make sure you got that bit of you know, info. So he plans on tricking uh, Jay Garrick, trying to get him out the way in order to be the one in. You pretty much misleading Jay Garrick into uh, 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 to be somewhere else. Why while he is not only trying to save the day, but he ends up killing the bad guys. Of course, he doesn't like the fact that Jay's also been lecturing him every time they cross paths. So while Jay and his wife was on partying on a yacht as guests, uh, was brewing. Griffin comes to save the day, but Jay arrived kind of late, but he was like misled. Yeah, but Jay like knew something was up. This guy is like exuding odd behavior. He's clearly not behaving like a typical hero. And obviously, he doesn't believe he doesn't need any kind of training or mentorship. He has it all together. That leads to problems because it's not too unheard of to have new superheroes come in and try to save the day, but they go out their way to try to help people. They don't try to gain any kind of like gifts for their superheroing, and they're more inclined to try to do team ups with the local hero. This guy not into any of that stuff. So you see him like he doesn't even bother with the whole secret identity thing. He wants the glitz and the glamour. He's getting rewarded with like this weird looking car thing. Uh, well, uh, Bart is just feeling completely uncomfortable while Griffin is just trying to get trying to get some box. Ironically or coincidentally, Val is at this like shindig. Like I don't know what she's doing that specific area out of all places, but she sees Bart there, assuming he is like kind of like a this party dude and philanderer kind of guy. But instead of going there and talking with the guys, she just makes assumptions. There's parts in the middle of this entire story where I really don't care for Val, But at the beginning and towards the very end, I like her very much. But uh, there's a lot of misstuff she does that she doesn't own up to, which I have a problem with. We'll get to that soon. But we see Griffin like suffering the ill effects of his powers, and he's trying to hide it because he's worried it's going to be taken away from him if they examine it and realize it's becoming like a detriment. He knows that's probably going to be the case, so he ain't bothered to let anybody in on what's going on. Bart's doing more rescues, and him and Val, doing more connecting. So the jig is up when Jay uh, killed a truckload of criminals after being apprehended. Griffin ends up killing them, and it's revealed that his powers is slowly aging him. So uh, Griffin theorized, okay, you've been the Flash for a very long time, and you only got an appearance of like just getting into your senior years. Even though you was, like a healthy young adult way back in the 40s. But you're just now getting gray hair. So your powers slowed your aging quite a bit. I figure if I take your powers, I can get my youth back. Meanwhile, after nearly getting murdered by Griffin from being thrown out the freaking window by the guy, he obviously, Bart obviously saved himself. So he runs into Cyborg, who's trying to give him some healthy advice. Let me see again here. Looks like you're having some trouble with Speed Force. Like, I'm really glad to see you. But I don't know how you're supposed to help the entire Speed Force locked up inside me. She said this version of Barry's suit seems to be containing it. Sometimes, but mostly I just lose control, and it scares the hell out of me. You scared? That impulse kid I knew never let being afraid stop him from jamming on the throttle. Look, I raced back to Earth to warn everyone of Superboy Prime's escape, but I don't remember most of what happened right before that. Yeah, he's dealing with a bit of memory problems too, which he eventually overcomes. Once he fully embraced the Speed Force and, reconcile his inner turmoil. Scared? You bet I'm scared. Do I feel like my old impulse self? Only once in a while. Uh, I met this girl, Val. I feel like my old self. Even ran her home once. Uh, Trust me on this, Bart. It's not the Speed Force itself. It's your fear of it that's causing you to lose control. Yeah. Inner turmoil, which is kind of like the whole Tobey Maguire Spider-Man thing in Spider-Man 2, where you having like self-doubts. It's like, you have to like kind of overcome the mental blocks he has in his mind, the self-doubt. And I like these little pop-ins from other heroes, typically the Titans, to give Barry Bart some helpful advice. Uh, so uh, Bart and Jay tries to stop Griffin, uh, but uh, he ain't trying to listen to either one of them. There's always like a hostage situation happening, and luckily the Flashes comes in, saves everybody before Griffin could do any serious damage because of his A, inexperience, and B, kind of his um you know his warped sense of justice. And so now he's kind of like butthurt in his feelings, like this is my city, and this part I kind of cracked up. Where it's like all the cops sit there and start laughing at his dumbass. It's like this is my city. Listen, he's running like a 5-year-old, and they just clowning. Uh, so in his feelings, he crashes out by sending a police copter crashing down, but of course the Flashes stop it and save everybody. So now his entire hero image is completely tarnished, but he's still running an issue with the aging. Meanwhile, like Val ends up getting kidnapped by a clone of Bart from the future named Inertia. I do dig this look. It's pretty much like Bart's version of Reverse Flash, just like a crazy clone. But only difference is, in order to maintain his super speed, he has to take these drug injections that he keeps in his kind of like wrist gauntlets in order to be able to maintain his super speed. It's not honestly too dissimilar to something like Earth 3's Johnny Quick, where you got the kind of speed juice instead of like the speed formula that crash onto that like Barry and Wally crash into the chemicals as lightning strikes, causing the super speed. This one's kind of like just drug injections that last for a certain period. So Griffin ends up kidnapping Jay in order to try to steal his abilities using some like equipment that he also confiscated. Little did he realize that uh, it all derived from the Speed Force, which, unbeknownst to Griffin, Bart is the wielder of. So he ended up kidnapping the dude for nothing. But obviously, Jay's not going to tell him, what's what. But he still wants to help the kid, but, once again, he's not listening. Once Bart realized Jay got kidnapped, he followed the trail of clues, was leading to an underground, like, kind of like a sewer system kind of thing. He ends up rescuing Jay. He nearly was killed, but luckily he saved him in the nick of time while Griffin made his escape. All thanks to using the speed, managed to resuscitate Jay Garrick. In terms of inertia, is working with uh, 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 Mota, Val's father, who he she thought had died long ago, but no, his powers uh kind of like went out of whack, and his body was annihilated, but his I guess spirit merged with the ability, so now he's just like like ethereal energy. So he still wants to well, here not only wants to take down the Flash along with Inertia, who wants to take down the Flash, he needs a new body, so he wants to take over his own daughter's body in order to live again. Obviously, Bart ain't gonna let that happen once he realized what happened. But in the meantime, Bart is pretty much like trying to save everybody by a collapsing bridge that Griffin caused in order to it's a typical thing in certain comics where like the villain trying to fake being a hero by causing accidents. Of course, that didn't fool Barry because he knew that this bridge, it has like an infrastructure that won't collapse, on its own weight for another potentially several years. So obviously this, was caused by him in order to fake saving people. And obviously he still has to apprehend him from what he did to Jay. But in the ensuing fight, he overtaxed himself, causing Griffin to die from old age. Which, obviously, deep down, this, still bothers Bart because this was still technically his friend. They still wanted to help. Don't know how long they was friends for. It's like, you've been roommates for what? Like maybe like a couple of years max? I don't know. Not to say it would hurt any less. It's still like a person that got, obsessed with fame and fortune and being like a meta-human. All that went to his head, clearly. So now we're moving on to the next arc, as because it's two arcs. The first arc was lightning in a bottle, and now we're on full throttle. Love the title. You can see a little bit of what happened with the previous Flashes, except for like Jay. Bart, has to be the one to carry on the mantle while the others deal with the crisis event. So, Bart needing some time, he heads out to Vegas, where he sees a Flash villain, Abracadabra, who's not really a mystic like someone like Zatanna. He uses technology from the 64th century, I think, uh, is where he's from, and he travels to the present as a pretending to be some kind of really cool magician, and he's actually just using future tech, and he uses those to also commit crimes. So, realizing he's trying to pull off a heist, he obviously stops him, put him in prison. Love moments like this. Because he also is technically from the future, not the same future as Abracadabra, but he, like many of the other Flashes, knew his whole shtick. So they know how to take down this guy. Meanwhile, Inertia, uh, getting some stuff from Deathstroke, you know, uh, uh, Velocity 9. Uh, this is this all you brought? If we're going to pull this off, we have to improve the pipeline. Working on it, Thad. But Velocity 9 without the impurities of the old formula takes a lot of time and oversight. I won't even trust its transport to anyone but myself. Hope you appreciate that. I do, but if I want top acceleration, I need a constant supply. Keep your system amped 24/7 isn't smart. Until I get mainline into the Speed Force, what choice do I have? Whereas Mota, amazing his daughter's DNA samples, analyzing his daughter's DNA samples, time enough to fetch the last piece of the regeneration machine, the trigger. Trigger. I like the sound of that. You've got one hell of a plan. Let me know when it's executed. So this is the only time we see Deathstroke. He just, was hired to, get this formula that maintains inertial speed. So yeah, Bart figures like a change the scenery is what he needs, and we see this hot chick is supposed to be some apartment neighbor that we'll never see again. Don't know why you had to put so much emphasis on this chick, or even why she needs to be there. So Bart figures he moves to Vegas. He's moving all over the place because he'll eventually move to LA a bit. Because he figured, like, Keystone and Central City doesn't need two Flashes. Like, technically he's right, but look, I'm not sure how much money he's in there wasting. Because technically he'll eventually start getting a job working at the LA Police Department, trying to get involved in forensics like Wally and Bart before him. So there's a thing with Flashes with forensics. I mean, it'd be like, I'm about to use like Supergirl as an example, but yeah, I think there's been times where she worked in journalism too, just like Clark. But I'm not sure if Superman's son will start getting into journalism, Matter of fact, I don't see Damien or Nightwing, Jason, Tim getting into, I don't know, business school or to be like, Wayne, Bruce Wayne. It's just like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. And like, why y'all trying to get into the same career field? So when Val tries to make her escape, Inertia eventually catches up with her. Uh, Inertia uses tech to mimic her voice to lead uh, 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 Bart into a trap. Oh no! Wait a minute. I misspoke earlier. He didn't move to Vegas. He moved to California, but the trap is in Vegas. That's what it was. I misspoke. My apologies. Because I'm getting these little movements in different spots in the U.S. all mixed up because they're going all over the place. So, thinking that he can reconnect with Val after their little seemingly breakup, because she's supposed to have met Jay and his wife, kind of like introducing the new girlfriend to the family, but she seemingly, you know, left, but it was, all under the guise of protecting Bart because of the whole father situation. So, typical Flash trap, putting a bomb to Val. He got 5 seconds to disarm it, which he does, but it also kicks off a photon laser that sets off. So now it's, firing directly at Bart. Now, it isn't tracking him, but I don't know if it's tracking him or not. It wasn't specific, but he know this can't go because he can't let it impact anybody. But he ends up, letting it go far and hit the machine. He goes pretty much across the planet, right back to Vegas, where he moves slightly out of the way so the beam can hit the machine itself, essentially. But Inertia ends up getting away before he ends up getting caught. But the blast was so massive, it ends up, once it fired, it ended up blacking out Vegas. So while Barry is trying to get everything booted up, at least the emergency reserve, so hospitals and other stuff can at least have its power first before the grid starts slowly everything else power back up. Him and Val reconnect. They end up banging. But while Bart goes out to do some patrol really quick, just to make sure everything is all right and nobody's trying to take advantage of the blackout, Moda comes back, pretty much trying to apologize. This part seems like very weird because it's never shown why he has this change in perspectives now. Now he really loves his daughter. He doesn't want to take over her body anymore. He still hates the Flash, but he doesn't want to go after him anymore. But she ain't trying to hear it. Bart shows right back up. He uses the power he has to try to encase the Flash in energy, but he breaks loose, catches up with them using magnetism to pretty much trap Moda, because given the type of energy, it falls prey to slipstreams and magnetism, and that's how he ends up getting caught, and that kind of wraps up that little arc, if you can call it that, because it seems uh, it seems kind of like a point, like just like with Griffin, this guy seems pointless. Uh, I'm not sure if it's just trying to get like an excuse to get Val involved, but I think the kidnapping is more than enough. So now, after officially meeting Val, who, of course, typical in certain superhero stuff, where the nerdy girl takes off her glasses, now she's like super hot, like she wasn't hot before. But he still want to live in California and be the superhero there and work in get a job in forensics. And of course, he goes to the police academy. Meanwhile, while he's trying to do superhero work in California, Robin calls, trying to see if he wants to get back into the Teen Titans. He doesn't give a direct answer. He kind of like pushed it aside right now and try to focus on forensics and doing a superhero gig solo. Nearly done. Meanwhile, we get this slight, side quest little mission here, where after defeating that, bad guy, Bart realized there was this weird glowing machine underneath the ground that got torn up in the fight. After looking into it, is discovered that it's apocalypse technology, but they don't know anything beyond that without further study, which they don't have time for because Bart and Val is supposed to be meeting with some friends for a couples date thing. This part had me cracking up. That's why I like the second arc a little bit more, because there's a little bit more comedic stuff and a lot more meat to it and more useful characters. Oh, sweetie, it's beautiful. Such a romantic gift. How did you know this is exactly what I wanted? Cute Val. Seriously, this is your idea of a date? Dinner with your friends isn't till 9. We're meeting them in Keystone. 15 minutes of time in the world. We can pick up a bottle of wine in Paris if you want. Just like other couples. What? Nothing. Okay. Well, this doohickey, is that a technical term? Actually, yes. From the Latin doohicus, which roughly translated means bite me. This doohickey is apocalyptic technology. So, I read it with a little, comedic timing, but you catch my drift. As I was reading it for the first time, I got a little chuckle out of it. It's like, oh yeah, doohickey. It's a technical term for bite me. It's like I don't know. It's like this police department don't have the necessary resources to really look further into it beyond the surface. That's why she suggested going to Star Labs in order to utilize their tech in order to find out what's involved. We never find out what's involved with this thing. It's just there to give an excuse for eventually a particular character to come show up. But they end up going to this little double date, which is the part where I get kind of annoyed of Val. and annoy Bart because he allows this. We'll get to it. On the dinner date, Val's little girlfriend keeps like dropping not so subtle hints, and puns, and references to Flash and Speed and superheroing and all that stuff. And Bart is like, what the hell? So they step out of the restaurant, and rightly so, Bart ends up chewing out Val for like, you did not just tell your friend I'm the Flash. And she gets, on this high horse, talking about like, I have nobody to talk about this stuff to. And he's like, you got me. I was like, no, but I need a girlfriend. Like things that like I can need a lady to talk with. I'm pretty much keeping this all stuff to myself. Now, that's understandable. She wants an outlet, but that does not give her an excuse to blab to a girl who you do not know if she's gonna fly off the mouth or end up getting captured and tortured and forced to reveal certain information. She does not know that, and maybe this seems to, might take it a little bit too far, but he needed to make it a big point of it. If he brings about the death of Sue Dibney, the late wife of the elongated man. Now, if you know, God, it wasn't Identity Crisis. Was it Identity Crisis? I'm pretty sure it was Identity Crisis. Like, hold on. Don't want to misspeak here. Yeah, it was Identity Crisis, where he brings up about how like Sue Dibney, and I think he also brings up Kyle Rayner Flash about his late girlfriend and the whole term fridging. And when villains finds out about a particular hero's like wife or girlfriend, they won't hesitate. And he brings up about the raping of Sue Dibney too. Trying to make sure I keep it like PC for the YouTube, but it's he brings up a real legitimate concern and a reason why he did not want her just blabbing to people, because he does not want her to fall victim to the same stuff that Kyle Rayner and Elongated Man have went through. The last thing he wants is for her to be harmed, and not just harmed, grotesquely harmed. But she gets on this high horse, forcing him to apologize for being. It's a typical thing. That's why I do other like reaction videos with with dating landscape and all this other stuff, where even way back in the early 2000s, ladies like never wanted to be held accountable or anything. It's just like we see it right here, where she just like get on this soapbox about like, oh, woe is me, I have nobody to confide into. You could at the very least had this kind of conversation with Bart. He could introduce you to other superhero friends who have people, no civilian friends or family members that are in the know that she could confide into. Give them like their numbers or something like that, so they can have some kind of powwow, or contact Jake Garrick's wife if she need like a girlfriend to talk to. But she didn't bother to just have this conversation first. She took it upon herself to blab to a friend who we don't know this girl outside of this little moment, but because she didn't go around blabbing about Bart's identity to people. But in terms of this little moment right here and now, she is completely at fault. Val had no business going around blabbing, but then getting like Bart to apologize is so dumb. And it's wild to me. He had every right to be upset. And it was a whole thing. I this was the moment where I knew, like, oh, I don't like this character at all. Clearly, she probably got better in the later subsequent Flash stories, but this part really, got under my skin. It's like, girl, do you want to get kidnapped? It's like you're making it easier because you don't know this girl. It's like, I'm not sure she knew her long enough to warrant her to confide that deep into. If it was maybe like a childhood friend, that would be like a different story. But even still, that doesn't excuse that she didn't bother to go to Barry first. But anyway, while them having a little split for the time being, Barry goes back to class, and while he's in like introspective mode and he feeling like bad about what happened, it's like, no, you have a right to be pissed. She's in the wrong. She's the one that needs to be the one to apologize. But then the instructor, sitting there thinking he's not listening, he started asking him about like because I can't help but think about Dexter when you're talking about blood in a forensic setting. What, you think you already learned everything about forensics? You need to know from CSI Miami, like these little references from TV shows. It's like, oh, I don't want. Why don't you tell the class how secondary blood splashing occurs, smart guy? Secondary blood splashing, or ricochet, occurs as a result of the deflection of the blood from one surface to another after impact produced by the movement of either the victim or assailant. The more blood that's involved, the greater the quantity of splatters, generally. Look out quickly, because you might be right, because this is back when comic writers and editors knew how to actually do research. They don't just spew, scientific gobbledygook. Just because it's like a comic book doesn't mean you don't have to do some bit of research to ground this in a way. Secondary secondary blood splashing refers to the phenomenon where blood splatters that occurred after a primary blood drop has already made contact with a surface. This can happen when blood is splashed from a pool or when blood-soaked objects impact another surface, causing additional splatter. And occur due to deflection of large volumes of blood after impact from one surface to another. It is often observed when pools of blood are disturbed by objects such as shoes stepping into six. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Yeah. Not exactly word for word, but it's pretty much the gist. So yeah. So it's like, man, because most comics nowadays, you don't get that. It's rare you get that deep into. Cause I know this is fantasy, but it has to be rooted in something, and like we don't get much. You just get certain writers, usually the activist ones, that's just like, oh, this is say whatever. I was like, why do any that deep level of research? It's like probably at most they do surface level research, but they don't make any necessary legwork in order to make sure what you're putting onto these comic panels that the readers might learn a little something along the way. But then the class get interrupted by some officers who says there's like a metahuman attack, and turns out to be Steppenwolf, not in his spiky Snyder version. But I do love this illustration. The early 2000 illustrations, like most of it, I really like. I really really like. Uh, it's just like look at like the way like the blue, like the shade of blue it uses. I'm not sure what it is, but it kind of reminds me of how like certain like because the last like Fantastic Four comic that I've reviewed, I made a mention to that. It got that same kind of shade of blue. It's just kind of like I don't know. It's hard to put into words. Like when you look at somebody like the shoes, it has kind of like a balloon like you know shape to it. It's hard for me to describe, but I probably make a deeper mention into my Fantastic Four review. But I just love the art, in this era. Um, and if I was, ever to write a comic, I want somebody to utilize art similar to this. Uh, so he's after the apocalyptic technology. So he's trashing the police department while Flash trying to take him down. He's having a tough time because he's a new god. Uh, so he's getting kind of beat up a bit here. Despite his best efforts, him by himself isn't really a match for like a new god, but he is giving it his all. He tries to uh, utilize the super speed to kind of turn his power back onto him, but it still wasn't enough. Luckily, the well, not necessarily the Justice League, but like some parts of the Justice League members come in to stop Steppenwolf and get the uh, apocalyptic technology off his Bart's hands. Uh, he ends up calling him back while recuperating from like a busted rib from the attack. He calls Robin, who he tells that, and this is a show of some maturity here from most superheroes, kind of like Miles Morales in the Spider-Verse films. It's like, yeah, or even Peter Parker in Homecoming. It's like he understands that he's not ready for the big leagues yet. He's gonna, at least for a little while, he's gonna like still maintain like a solo act, street level type of thing. Uh, he has to work his way up. He knows. Meanwhile, back in Rome, Italy, August 24th, AD 410, we see Reverse Flash. You ever wonder in certain Flash stories, it's like if the Reverse Flash will show up, and more often than not, you'll be right in expecting him at least once. He's just back in time, just want to watch Calamity because he's such a sick asshole. And a mysterious hooded figure is enlisting his help in dealing with Bart Allen. And of course, obviously, he agrees. Ain't a reason to like get his hands on a Flash. Meanwhile, in class, one of the assignments is a cold case that in order to pass, they have to solve this mysterious murder of a former criminal who, days after he was released from Pelican Bay Penitentiary, he was murdered. Little evidence at the scene, and his head was missing, not found anywhere, and nobody was able to solve the murder for many years. So it became a cold case. So Bart starts looking into it and goes over different potential ways of eliminating the head. He thinks about like Simon and Grundy, or anybody using some kind of potential laser, or whatever. But looking into the crime scene photos, he knows there was like wet spatter parts around the corpse where the head would have been at. Now, looking through the records, he noticed that there was, even though it was wet down there, California on that day didn't experience rain until 2 days prior. So there was no reason why this should be wet in any kind of way. So he then operated on the hypothesis, somebody must have frozen his head. Because given the, what little evidence he has, there's no other reason why the head should be completely gone. And this massive wet spot where the head would have been at is, scattered around, and there was no rain occurrences for a good while. So he goes and speeds towards different ice-related villains that would have been in he thinks it would have been active around this time. He goes to Icicle. He was not anywhere near California at that time. He mentions Killer Frost. She would have been dead at this point. Nice little reference to Caitlin Snow. He goes to Gotham City. Don't know why he didn't run into any of the robbers or Batman at this point. But he goes to confront Mr. Freeze. And he mentions to him, given the fact that Mr. Freeze is also a scientist, mind you, he mentions to him that you have a villain who used ice powers too. And obviously referencing Captain Cold. Bart said to him, yeah, he's the first person I thought of. He was reformed at that time, or he is reformed at that time, or since then. So he hasn't been active long before the death of that guy. So he didn't feel he had no reason to suspect him, which that was an error in his part, because if you ever watch any cop show or read any Batman comics, if nobody is above being a suspect if they were, in the middle of it, or has some kind of a motive, or using some kind of motif that would be related to a person. So just because he might have been reformed, but since it might have been an ice-based related crime, he has to be still on the list. And I love how Mr. Freeze pointed out to Bart, given the fact that he's a scientist, saying the way that the head would have been frozen and shattered in a particular way, left nothing behind, it has to only work at absolute zero, which only leaves Captain Cold, because of his cold gun only shoots absolute zero, nothing below and nothing above, in order to maintain the particular crystallization that is required. Once again, smart writers that we don't have nowadays, at least not as much nowadays, that writers of old did the extra legwork to make sure they have some level of science behind it to match the fantasy. You don't need to make it a complete science documentary, but gotta have some level of because especially dealing with the Flash, you gotta have some level of science behind it. So Bart goes to confront uh 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 Captain Cold, who's in his apartment. Um, and of course, he still has a cold gun always at the ready in case a speedster might show up. And he admits that, yeah, the guy owed him some money, and he ends up killing the guy. But before he can actually be apprehended and brought on crimes, Reverse Flash shows up and gets into a fight. As the fight went on, and it was revealed that the mysterious hooded figure that hired the Reverse Flash to stop Bart, not kill him, but take him out of the game for a bit, was his grandmother, Iris West. Dun dun dun. And she tries to shoot Bart with tranquilizer darts, which he ends up obviously snatching out of the air and injected in the Reverse Flash to take him out. So this is the last time we see the Reverse Flash on anything. And it's revealed that she only hired the Reverse Flash, which is shocking given the fact that this dude's a complete psycho and has no reason to not murder her and him just for the sake of hurting a Flash. But this is future Iris. She's a grandmother, so she still obviously has some age to her, not crazy old, but she ends up traveling back in time to the present to remove Bart out of the equation temporarily, because obviously it's revealed that he is going to die by the hands of the Rogues. And in order to stop her grandson from dying, she figures, like, I gotta take him out of the picture. But you would think she, above all anybody else, knows that's obviously won't be a good idea. And it's not the first time she would have learned this kind of lesson, given the fact that who her husband is. And obviously, this is obviously probably way before Flashpoint, but she should have known the dangers of messing with time. So meanwhile, while this is going on, Inertia starts recruiting other, Captain Cold and the other rogues into building this machine in order to rob the Flash of his super speed powers, in order for him to be weak enough for them to kill him. And he promised them, like a complete takeover of Central City and Keystone. But Abracadabra eventually kind of caught on after getting a closer look at the machine, the materials that would have been used in the 30th century, where Inertia and Bart is from originally. However, he is from the 64th century. Now, Inertia made the mistake of assuming that all the rogues are complete idiots, but Abracadabra proves to him, well, they're not necessarily idiots, they're smart in their own kind of way, especially when it comes to certain technology, like Captain Cold. He's able to assemble, he knew, that's why he was a leader of the rogues. If you remember, I did my earliest comic book reviews was Forever Evil, where a lot of the villains, or at least a group of villains, took on the crime syndicate when they tried to take over the Prime Earth after they escaped their original Earth 3 and trapped the Justice League in some kind of stasis so they don't have any kind of interference. You learn from there where Captain Cold, after getting his cold gun for the first time, he didn't want to feel weakened by not having his cold gun, so he learned the materials necessary needed to build a cold gun, so if his original one was taken or destroyed, he can, he learned how to build it from memory, so he can't be without a weapon. Here, Abracadabra points out to Inertia that I was taught what you know about technology, like 30th century technology, when I was in the third grade back in the 64th century. So I got a bigger leg up than you in terms of knowledge. So this machine ain't gonna do what you promised. You are using us. So of course Inertia starts beating on this guy. It's like, okay, you think you're so smart, I can't have you blow up my spot, so I'm gonna take you out. But Flash, after getting through the dome that was built because of the Trickster, which only leaves one pathway in, which only a Flash would be able to get through. So instead of calling for backup, like, getting Jay Garrick or the Teen Titans involved, he, like in many comics in respect, the hero has to handle this on their own. It's not a team up book. So he raced inside to deal with the rogues. And of course, again, a little bit ahead of myself, because he starts recruiting everybody. Bart gets in trouble with the police after forensics find out that Steppenwolf broke into Barry's locker to steal that technology, and they start questioning him. At the same time, Val shows up trying to rekindle things. They questioning him. The rogue starts popping off with the dome and the machine, and Barry doesn't have time to be questioned right now, and left with little options, he decided to just reveal himself as the Flash. I don't have time for this. You don't believe me, that's whatever. Damn my secret identity at this point, because I gotta stop these guys from seemingly putting everybody in, like, slowing time for everybody in the city. So he's like, damn it, like, okay, whatever. Val eventually gets picked up by Iris to try to help her grandson, who, after some convincing from Bart that, I cannot stop, he shows some level of growth throughout the two particular arcs, that he's the Flash. He has the job to do. He cannot sit on the sidelines. That's not what heroes do. So if I don't intervene, a lot of people will get hurt, and it'll be on me. So I have to do something. Here's like Val getting picked up by. She was about to leave for the airport, but gets stopped by Iris. Then Abracadabra confronts Inertia. Of course, Bart shows up in the nick of time before he gets killed, and a fight ensues between Bart and his clone. Now, Iris recruits Val because she has some Star Labs knowledge. Figure, okay, you look into this machine, see if you can shut it down without causing an explosion, and Bart won't get hurt in the process. Val has to point out that, given the fact that how this thing is built, there is no off switch because Inertia doesn't expect to turn this off at any point, so there's no reason to have an off switch. But if she messes with it in an improper way, it causes like a massive atomic explosion that will take out the city and everybody in it. So she has to uh, be uh, careful with this. But eventually gets turned on, robbing Bart of his super speed, which the Speed Force is stripped from him and is drawn into the machine. While trying to deal with the rogues, who's pretty much beating his ass at this point, and despite Abracadabra's eventual protest, they ain't trying to. They he points out that Inertia is playing them like fools and isn't promising them what he ain't gonna commit to what he's promised. But they figure, like, you know what? Because both their speeds got taken away pretty much. They figure, like, hey, we only gonna get this opportunity to take out a Flash, so we might as well seize it. While this is carrying on, Bart sees the Black Flash, which is pretty much the Grim Reaper of speedsters, who only shows up when a Flash is about to die, or a speedster is about to die, because they don't get a normal Grim Reaper like everybody else, because they move so fast. It only takes a speedster in order to reap their souls. So the creation of the Black Flash happens. Matter of fact, out of curiosity, who created the Black Flash? I'm just curious. Grant Morrison, Mark Millar, and Ron Wagner. First appearance, The Flash, Volume 2, 1938. Oh, sorry, not 1938. Well, sorry, 100, issue number 138, 1998. So, yeah. So, he knew was coming, but he didn't let that bother him too much. He still had, speed or no, he's still a hero. And he's the only one there. Don't know why he didn't call the Titans, but whatever. So, despite Iris's best efforts to buy us some time while Val takes the time she needs to try to contain this thing, Bart uses his knowledge of like chokeholds that he learned from the police department during training to put his grandmother unconscious, which he kind of points out, I can't believe I just choked hold my grandmother. But he has to take her out of the picture because she might have done something to stop him from doing what he has to do. I love the look of this. It's like really good illustrations here. So he goes to confront Inertia and the rogues. He uses her Trank Dart, which only has a few shots left. Don't know why there's no more Trank Darts. But what little he has, he takes down like the more powerful rogues, like Weather Wizard and Mirror Master. So he uses like other knowledge of hand-to-hand combat from like the police department, Batman's sidekicks, in order to try to do them as much as possible, which goes to show why it's such an important thing for all superheroes know how to use hand-to-hand combat, because if they're superpowered and their powers are taken for any reason, because it can happen, you still need to be able to defend yourself. But the problem is he's still outnumbered. So they start beating on him. But he, with the last bit of willpower, he breaks free and starts trying to, go after Inertia, who's realized that Val's at the machine trying to disrupt his plans. He chases at them. They're just running at normal speed right now. And all the Flash trying to do is outpace the rogues while at the same time trying to catch up with inertia. He catches up with inertia and takes him down, but the rogues eventually catch up, and using their weapons, they burn, freeze, and electrocutes Bart, and then on top of that, beat on him. So suffice to say, they end up killing Bart. But once the dome is taken down, heroes show, I think, like, Jay Garrick, so they eventually show up, and they end up stopping the rogues, but it's too late. Bart is killed. Robin is alerted. Jay Garrick is alerted. Then the 13th issue ends with a vigil honoring Bart Allen, the Flash. And that's where the run ends. It's a pretty good run. Nice 13th issue story, 2 different arcs. Like I said, I like the second one way better than the first one, because you're dealing with familiar people. Now, you can introduce new people like Griffin, but they got to be interesting. The guy was not interesting at all. Why do you think he never shown up after this, 20-year long, and this, matter of fact, this would be 20 years since this comic. So a 20-year long time frame since this comic, with what DC went through those 20 years. Nobody bothered to bring this character back, probably for good reason, because he is lame. His powers is, kind of generic outside of stripping disintegration, but it's very lame, basic. His character arc is very basic. There's nothing interesting about this guy. I don't care for certain moments with Val's character, but beyond that, everything else I really enjoyed. I like the use of certain scientific knowledge, like forensics, very well handled here. It has to be dealing with like the Flash, because a lot of them work in forensic science, so it has to be done right. And I love the art in this, very much so. But anyway, that was the Flash. I'm the Flash. Sorry, I had to do that at least once, because, like, Grant Gustin. Oh God, I really like his Flash. But yeah, that was the Flash, fastest man alive, full throttle, lightning in the bottle story arcs. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. What's your favorite Flash story? And I will see you guys next time for another comic review, which I'm going to be very busy in the next, month or so, but I'll try my best to make sure I read when I can, and once I'm officially done, I will get right into a new comic review. But the next one will still be a DC comic related one. But anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Follow me on YouTube and Twitch as I stream games, review content like comics, as well as react to videos. I will see you guys in a little bit as I will go through 2 movie reviews that I have to wrap up February month. One black related, one romantic related, before we get to regularly scheduled program reviews with a theme to it. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Peace.